Hello everybody, I am back and teaching you about rational numbers. This is a rational number Venn diagram, and this rational number Venn diagram represents three different parts, but all together they are all rational numbers. The first part of the rational numbers is the whole numbers. So the whole numbers are numbers that are the numbers that we are normally used to, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're whole. There's no fraction or no decimal or percent. So I'm gonna write that down for you guys so you don't forget. Okay. No fractions or decimals. Okay. There are no fractions, no decimals. They are whole. 5 is whole. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. 3/4 cannot go here. That is wrong. I need to put that back because that's a fraction. This is less than a whole. 3/4. So 5 as in $5 is whole. 3/4 as in having 75 cents is less than $1. It's less than a whole. But there are some instances where a fraction is acceptable, like 9/3. 9/3 is acceptable because even though no fractions are allowed in this whole section, this is allowed because this fraction is not simplified. This fraction is actually a whole in disguise. 9/3 is really equivalent to a whole number by dividing, doing the in and out method. 9/3 is an improper fraction. So if I have 9/3, it's improper. We learned that we can change it back to a proper fraction by doing in over out. When we do in over out, we have to remember that the numerator goes in the house. So even though 9 is bigger, and normally the bigger number goes in the house when we're dividing fractions, that's not true. It can be big or small as long as you're putting the numerator in the house. Okay, so 9 goes in and 3 goes out. And this is easy. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So in reality, this 9/3 is 3 whole in disguise. So 9/3 is whole. Even though it looks like a fraction, its value, okay, value-wise, it is whole number 3 in disguise. So we're talking about not only ordering the numbers, or I mean classifying the numbers, we're talking about classifying their values. So that could be a little tricky, but as long as you do in and out to simplify, then it'll be a little easier to see. Okay, now integers. Integers are the same. You cannot have fractions or decimals. So I'm gonna write that right here. No fractions or decimals as well. So for an example, 1/2 does not belong there because integers do not include fractions or decimals. 5.4 can't go there, okay? I want you to think about, but what about a negative number? What if that were to be the case? What if this was negative 5.4? Does that belong there? Actually, no, that does not belong there because the value of this integer is negative 5 4/10. So this still includes a fraction. It still includes a decimal. So even though it's negative, it's not an integer, okay? So that's an example right there, okay? The only integers allowed in this green area, the only numbers allowed in this green area is the opposites of whole. of whole numbers. So the opposite of positive 5 is negative 5. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 22 counts because I don't see any fraction or decimal there. But what if, here's another example. What if I have negative 9/3? Is that still whole? It actually is not whole because wholes are positives. Integers are opposite whole numbers as well. So negative 9/3 is actually equivalent to negative 3. How did I know that? Well, because if I divide 9 and 3, I still get 3. But it was a negative number. So negative 3 is an integer. Negative 9/3 has a value of a negative whole number. So that is an integer. Okay? So I'm just showing you all these different examples so you can know what whole integer and rational looks like. Okay, so what about rational? Okay, let me put this negative 22 back and this negative 5 back. What about rational numbers? What are they? Okay, rational numbers are the numbers that are just way out there, that don't belong in the whole, that don't belong in the integer. These numbers include fractions and decimals. This is where they belong, in the outside. They're outcasted, the poor little numbers. I'm glad for them. But that's okay because they're each other's friend. Like 3/4, it's not whole, it's not integer, but it is rational. Fractions belong out here. 7/9 is rational. How about 0.3333? Yes, that's rational. So, but 9/3 doesn't go in that realm. It goes in the whole number section. So this is how we classify on the Venn diagram. So in this section, the whole number section, it's just the positive whole numbers. In the integer green section, it includes the negative whole numbers, I guess you could say, and the rational numbers include fractions, decimals, and percents. Now let's just tie this all together. Okay, this is a part that's very important that you have to understand. All of these numbers are considered rational. For an example, the number 5, its first identification is whole. That's its number one identification. If we're going to say what kind of number 5 is, we're going to go straight to whole. But since 5 is within the rings of the integer realm and the rational number realm, then we could say 5 is also an integer. And we can say that 5 is also rational. Because whatever's inside of one another, that's what its classification could also be. So whole is also integer, but it's also rational because they're all tied in together. You can't have rational without the whole, because then you would literally have a hole inside of the rational number diagram. It would be blank. Okay, so now let's look at the integers. Negative 5 is not inside of the whole number section, but it is an integer, right? So I'm going to go into classifying negative 5. Negative 5, its first classification is integer, but it is also included in the rational number ring. So then we could also say that it is also rational. Okay, now 3/4. What about 3/4? Well, 3/4 is only inside of one item, one ring, and that is a rational number ring. It is neither integer or whole number. It is just rational. so it's just one classification right there. Okay, but the whole point of the diagram is to place it where they first belong. So 5 first belongs in the whole number section. -5, its first classification is the integer section. And 3/4, its first classification is a rational number section. So when we read this diagram, we read from the inside out. From the inside out, see how my arrows are pointing outward? 9/3 is whole, but also integer, but also rational. Integers, such as -5, if you read it from the inside out, going outward, it's also rational. But I cannot go backwards. -5 is not whole. It only goes outward. You read it outward. Okay, so hopefully this helps you. Thank you for watching this video, and continue on to your activities. Good luck!